Good morning, friends. Hello, hello. Hope you're doing great this morning. Hello, everybody. How are you today? Oh, long day today. Splurged myself and got me a cappuccino. Pretty tasty. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're doing grand this day. Good morning, everyone. Hey, Karen, good morning to you. Everybody's doing all right. Oh, hello. Good morning, friends. Just a reminder tonight, we will have our Maundy Thursday service at 7 o'clock. We'll have we'll be worshiping in the Bogle Chapel. It's a small and intimate space. It is kind of reminiscent of the upper room. I hope you'll come and join us for communion and that time together. We will live stream the service, but it will only be on Facebook Live. It won't be our usual ways, so that if you want to join in, come right here at Facebook Live and be a part of that. So, good morning, friends. All right, let's get going this morning. It is the 17th day of April. It is Holy Thursday, Maundy Thursday. On this, as we enter into what is known as the Triduum, the 3 days of Easter, which begins at kind of evening today. Um, we enter into this kind of the most holy and the most sacred, the most celebrated time within the Christian year. This is actually the greatest and the first remembrances of and commemorations of Christianity were around these two activities that happen. This tonight, which is our sacrament of the Maundy Thursday, this notion of the institution of the Holy Supper as a way of remembering Jesus Christ, and then the celebration of Easter. Those were the first things. Those were the first things that when the church started to gather, they were the first things that they started thinking about in terms of holidays or commemorations. And 2,000 years of tradition. There's all kinds of bells and whistles and things that have come on, but this next 72 hours that is laid out before us is the time in which the richness and the beauty and the power of what we come to call the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ is right here and right now. So, which is culminates, as we know, in the resurrection of Jesus from the dead. And so I wanted to look a little bit at this and just talk about this a little bit with you today. So there's a longitudinal study that's gone on that has asked one simple question, and it started in 1973, and every year they ask it to a pretty good sample of respondents, and they've asked this question every year, and they plot it on their little graphs, and so this is within the United States. Do you believe in life after death? That's the question they ask. There's a couple other questions, but it's one of the most simple kind of surveys that you get. And in 1973, 76% of Americans said they believed in life after death. That was the reported number. Now, the world has changed mightily since 1973. We have, that was kind of, in some ways, that was not quite the peak of church attendance, but it was pretty high. That there was still this incredible enculturation around people attending church and being a part of the religious life of the world, whether regardless of their religious tradition, there were people connected to it. Certainly the 60s and the 70s were close to a high water mark for some of that anyway. Do you want to take a guess on what it is today? Do you want to guess what that is? And they've plotted it every year. Every year they've plotted it that the respondents that believe in life after death in 2022, which is the last time they have the last numbers I got. I'm sure they have more recent numbers, but 2022, so just a couple years ago, was 82%. It's actually increased. That there are actually more people who believe in the fact that when they shed this mortal coil, that when they lay their body down, there is further up and further on, there is a greater adventure ahead of us. That quite literally the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ continues to be told kind of regardless of what's happened within the churches. We certainly can look at church attendance, we can look at religious practice, we can look at the disciplines of what people held in 1973 and 2022, and those we can graph as quite different. That in fact there is a whole group of people who consider themselves nuns that have no religious affiliation, no don't subscribe to any tradition or any path or any way, and yet 60% of those and growing report that they believe in a life after death. So nothing is straightforward as we might seem. But it is at that question though is really at the heart, and it's not simply this do we believe it, in terms of a cognitive idea. Oh, and by the way, the respondents there that there's actually an educational correlation, which is the only correlation they've been able to find. They've studied of respondents, they've studied race, they've studied economic status, they've studied how, gender, they've studied any there's no particular predictive thing that says a person is more likely or less likely. There's only one that they could find in all of the different metrics that they measured, which were sizable in this survey. Do you want to guess what it is? It's education. And do you want to guess which way it goes? It might be counterintuitive to you. That actually people with more education, the more education a person has, the more likely they are to believe in life after death. Huh. You might have thought it was the other way around. That, because really that's kind of often what the materialists would offer us is this idea that, oh, that's the old timey hokum. The secular materialism would tell us that it's just this kind of holdover from our superstitious past. But the lived experience of people and with both the people around them that have and the life that they live, the information that they've taken in and synthesized and decided what is true and what is not true, what they will actually hold to their own lives. Because you see, there's religious practice, and there's kind of showing up to church, there's praying, there's giving money to the church or to the poor or in charity. There are all the traditional disciplines. There's doing acts of service. There's all those traditional disciplines of the church. But then there's also simply the life of what we believe and what the life that is synthesized through our experience, through our lived life, through the what we've encountered and what we haven't encountered, and that has actually made people have who have studied more, read more, dug in more, come to believe that it is more likely that there's life after death, and in fact the 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 slow march continues to be towards an increase of people who believe in life after death. And it's at the center of the Christian walk, right? Like it is. Every football game you ever go to, there's John 3:16 hanging off the banner, hanging off the bleacher somewhere. This whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. This basic idea that there is in it a life that will continue on together, that will continue on life together. Because it's not just me that lives forever and kind of on an island somewhere. It's always that we will have life eternal, and life eternal is in community because that's we're human beings. So a life without other human beings is actually not life. And a life without others is not actually not life at all for any of us. And so that it means the coming together of the heavenly community. The great Billy Graham said it this way. He said, which is at the heart, I think, of our tradition of being congregational Christians, of my home is in heaven, and I'm just traveling through this world. And you've heard me say it if you've listened any amount of time that we believe ourselves to be pilgrims walking each other home. We are pilgrims in this world. We hold this pilgrim idea deep within us, not just as because we were our spiritual ancestors got off ships and with hats with buckles on them, but that they understood themselves as citizens, as dual citizens of two worlds, and that citizenship of the spiritual world would be the one in which they would truly graduate into, and that they would become from the church militant to the church triumphant. That this reality, and so the question becomes, what are we to do then with our celebration in Maundy Thursday tonight? What do we do with the declaration of Easter, this declaration of the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ, which, by the way, is just what I said it was. It is that what Jesus has done in the past to overcome death, what Jesus is doing to overcome death, and what Jesus will do to overcome death and provide eternal life, not just for me, not just for you, not just for the people that we like, but for all of creation. All of creation, not just other people, but the vivification of all of creation. That all of creation will grow in life and in consciousness. So this notion that we live in this place, what then are we to do with it? And I think what it becomes down to, and this is what I hope I want to encourage you to lean into in this Easter tide, and these next 72 hours, is to think of it. It's not just about a belief, because in life after death, if you believe that there is in fact this life that when our heart stops beating, when our lungs stop filling up with air, that the life in which we have continues on, and the life in which we know, whatever it looks like, we may not know, however it constellates, may have some mystery to it. I suspect we can know more than we do if we really start looking. At least that's been my experience in studying near-death experience and all these other things. But regardless of that, it is, I think, this invitation to the Easter event, to tonight in the Maundy Thursday event, where Jesus in the shadow of the cross, who in just hours is about to be arrested, tortured, crucified, and killed. That in just hours, that under the shadow of the cross, under the shadow of betrayal, under the shadow of all the things that are coming to come, he breaks bread with the people that loves him. Why? Because it's not just about a belief, but it is how he lives with us. It is the greatest demonstration of how we are to live in a world in which the shadow of the cross lays over us. To know that we will one day leave this world, to know that we will one day, that the people that we love will in fact one day leave this world, to live in that reality, and to know that that's not the end. And if we know that's not the end, and if it invites us to live in particular ways, it invites us to have a dinner party at the very gates of hell. Because the gates of hell, even those are not permanent. Even those aren't going to get us. They might get their licks in every once in a while, but even those will not capture us, nor will they hold us, nor will they even really make a dent by the time it's all done. That it will all be raised up in glory. You see what I'm inviting you to is that when the great line of Easter and the great line of this time is that we should be an Easter people. And to be an Easter people is to live into the world as the 82% report that they believe that this life is not the end. And if we truly can hold that, and if we can take that word believe and kind of break it out from below our eardrums and our earlobes and into our heart and into our being, and we can take it out of just a notional idea of like, oh, okay, well, this makes more sense in a quantum world, blah blah blah. If we can take that out and actually break it into our bodies itself and into the way in which we live, that we can rejoice, we can drink wine and eat great bread, and we can celebrate and we can love one another around a table, even in the moments in which the shadow of the cross, the shadow of torture, the shadow of betrayal hangs over it all. We can party like rock stars. And that's not a play to hedonism. It is a play to say that these things really, that and if we really live into it, they have no hold over us at all. And that is what this invitation to Easter is about. It's not just about what we believe, but it's about what we be living. It's what we are living in our lives. And that it gives us not just permission, but gives us invitation to live into a life that is filled with joy, that is filled with dinner parties every night, that is filled with friendships, that is filled with deep connection, that is filled with beauty, that is filled with music, that is filled with love, that is filled with all of the things that make our hearts and our minds and our bodies resonate and revive and have life in them. Because that is the great truth. In the 5th chapter John, where we have John 3:16, but then he goes on to kind of in a couple chapters kind of talk about what does he mean when he says this. And it's in the 5th chapter Jesus throws out this. I tell you the solemn truth. The one who hears my message and believes the one who sent me has eternal life and will not be condemned, but has crossed over from death to life. And I tell you the solemn truth. A time is coming, and is here now, when the dead will hear the voice of the Son of God, and those who hear will live. The voice of the dead, friends, that he was talking about weren't just the people who were in the ground, or weren't the shades in Hades, weren't just those who would be pushing up the daisies, and weren't just those who were about to be martyred, or anything. It is the dead are still the places that dwell within us. The places that we can't find life and life in abundance. The places that we have hardness. The places where we are stiff-necked. The places in which we just feel like God can't do anything with that. This life and life in eternity, this life after death, is not for the next life. This life after death is for this life right here and right now. And that is the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ that we are going to talk about and celebrate and lift up in these next 72 hours. And I hope you will too, in your own place and in your own way. Peace and grace. I am away next week. There will be no 11:11s. We may be putting up some opportunities for some past episodes, so there may still be something at 11:11, but it won't be me live. We have a great next few days planned. We have tonight. We have our Maundy Thursday service at 7 o'clock. It will be live streamed here, but only here on Facebook. Tomorrow from 1 to 3, the church will be open. Our minister of music, Judy, will be playing some music, and we'll simply have the church open and available for prayer and meditation. I'll be hanging out, but there won't be any great program and then at 3 o'clock, I'll read a few of the last words, and we'll lay it down until 11 o'clock on Saturday when we have our Easter egg hunt. We have about 3,000 eggs filled with chocolate that are ready on the lawn. We usually have a couple hundred kids. The weather's going to be great. If you want to see a half an hour of mayhem, and if you need an encouragement, just come down and watch these kids go crazy. It is fantastic. The Easter Bunny comes. It's terrific. And then at 10 o'clock on Sunday morning, we will raise up our celebration of the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ and seek to be, once again, an Easter people. Peace and grace to you all, my friends, and we will pick it up in a few weeks with another 11:11. Happy Easter.